Purge the Warped. The air on board the Morning Star was thick with a smell of sweat and fear. The mission terminal, filled with ex-convicts, turned unwillingly into the Emperor's soldiers milled around, their faces filled and contorted with panic as they prepared to face the dangers that awaited them down there, lurking in the underbelly of that dark, dirty, and infested city. But that was only half of their worries, for the real fear was the possible repercussions that they might face up here, should they not prove their worth in the eyes of those above. Styx and Groon departed the dropship loading bay and presently stood in the hangar. The enormous projection of tertium stood before them, its eerie green glow reflecting off the metal that surrounded them. Outside, beyond the Gothic cathedral-sized windows, the rust-colored ball of Atoma Prime floated in orbit. It looked so peaceful from up here, in the relative serenity of space. Their last mission had proved to be another success, another purging of the heretical, and the cream on top was the felling of a mighty Chaos Space Marine. But that success was tainted by the recent developments with Styx's psychic powers. The warp flowed within him, deeper now, stronger. His mind was not his own. His powers were growing, and they both knew the inevitable outcome was out there on the near horizon. Groon looked over to his friend, his eyes containing a hint of sadness.
You know, I hear there's a new guy on board. Someone of stature.
Styx frowned.
Yes, I think you mean stature, Groon. Not statue. Yes.
Oh, yeah. That's the one, then.
You mean this Hestia woman? The one in charge of keeping a record of our penances?
Her, nah, not her. I think it's some new Inquisitor.
Oh.
Styx turned and looked up to the towering Ogren.
An Inquisitor, you say?
Oh, yeah. That's the one. So what's to do now, then, Styx? You fancy bashing some things in the meat grinder?
But Styx's mind was elsewhere. The presence of a new Inquisitor played on his mind, and he ran through the possibilities. Each led to a similar outcome. He had to leave. He had to get away from the Morning Star, away from suspicion, for his new abilities had not gone unnoticed. It saddened him greatly, but for his own safety, he had to distance himself from Groon, from everyone.
Yes, why don't you head over there, Groon? I just have to, take care of something.
A look of concern came over Groon, but before either of them could continue this discussion, the shrill voice of the Vox announcer filled their ears.
Servant announcement. Could the subject 10866 report to the Inquisitorial offices immediately?
Styx fell silent. A deep anxiety ruptured within his stomach as Groon looked down upon him.
That's you, isn't it, Styx?
Yes, Groon. Yes, Groon. I'm sure it's nothing, just a routine check.
Oh, yeah. Maybe.
I'll be back soon. Never you worry,
said Styx, as he began his walk down the darkened corridors to the rear of the Morning Star. His anxiety grew with every step, and with that building emotion, he could feel the energy surge within him, spilling out of his body. It was almost uncontrollable now, but still he fought against it. A desperate attempt to tame this ever-growing power. Inquisitor Kalis paced the dimly lit chamber, the soft hum of arcane machinery filling the air. Before him knelt the Psyker known as Styx. The faintest glow of warp energy flickered around him, barely noticeable, but there nonetheless. His eyes glazed with an otherworldly light. Styx, Kalis's voice cut through the silence, firm and commanding. You stand accused of consorting with a warp, of succumbing to its seductive whispers. Do you deny these charges? Styx's lips curled into a sneer, a sudden hint of defiance flashing in his eyes.
I deny nothing, Inquisitor. The warp is but a tool, a means to an end. I serve the Imperium, regardless of the methods.
Kalis's gaze hardened. Your arrogance blinds you, Psyker. The warp is not a mere tool. It is a force of unfathomable power, one that twists and corrupts all who dare to wield it without caution. Styx laughed, a chilling sound that echoed in the chamber. A snap had occurred within his brain, a revelation. He had served his time, done all that had been asked of him, and this power, this curse was not asked for, and now he was surely to be punished for it, a punishment he knew would be death. There was no avoiding it, no hiding it, and this revelation manifested itself in anger. It was unexpected, it was not his true self, but things change, and the warp was beginning to take hold.
Caution is for the weak, Inquisitor. I embrace the warp, for it grants me power beyond your feeble understanding. I am no longer afraid of its embrace.
The Inquisitor's jaw clenched, his hand drifting to the hilt of his power sword.
You speak of power, yet you fail to see the corruption that festers within you. You are a danger to yourself, and to the Imperium.
Styx's gaze narrowed, a hint of uncertainty flickering in his eyes.
And what would you have me do, Inquisitor? Renounce the warp? Turn my back on the very essence of my being?
Kalis stepped forward, his expression steely.
No, Styx. I offer you a choice, a chance for redemption. Submit yourself to the purging fires of the Emperor's justice. Let his light cleanse the taint that stains your soul.
For a moment, silence hung heavy in the air, broken only by the crackle of warp energy. Both men hung on the promise of violence. There was no escaping this encounter. There could be only one outcome. With a defiant smirk, Styx finally broke the silence.
I will not be shackled by your narrow-minded dogma, Inquisitor. I am beyond your reach.
The Inquisitor grimaced at the Psyker's defiance. The decision had been made, and now the penalty must be enforced. But before Kalis could react, Styx's form blurred, tendrils of warp energy coalescing around him. And with a surge of power, he rose, levitating above the ground, his eyes burning with an unholy light. With a grim determination, Inquisitor Kalis drew his power sword, its blade crackling with righteous fury. So be it, Styx. If you choose to embrace the warp, then you leave me no choice but to end you. But Styx had already channeled his powers. The tendrils of warp energy lashed upon the Inquisitor, every impact draining the life force from his body, as lethal bolts of bio-lightning erupted from Styx's fingers and pummeled the Inquisitor into the ground. Smoke began to rise from Kalis's skin as it began to tear and burn, his eyes filling with hatred and awe as he drew his final breath. Groon stood at the mission terminal window, his eyes gazing out at the stars. It had been some time since Styx had left. Too long, in fact. A realization dawned upon him, and it saddened him to his very core. He did not move when he noticed the rushing security personnel. He did not flinch when the alarm sounded throughout the ship, the red and orange glow of the emergency lights casting a sullen hue throughout the corridors. But as sad as he was with his loss, he allowed himself a smile as he saw a small craft hastily depart from the Morningstar's hangar. For he knew who was on board that ship. He knew they had to flee, and he was only sorry that he could not join his friend, no matter the cost. Suddenly, a slight pain filled his mind. He grimaced and placed a hand upon his forehead as the words came through with crystal clarity.
I'm truly sorry, Groon. But I must leave you now. Good luck, my sweet brute.